Mod Bore Up Level 8 Ghost Pepper Hot Sauce. And now you're wondering, well, Rendan, why do you have Mod Bore Up's Level 8 Ghost Pepper Hot Sauce? I'm going to drink it just to give you a taste of the discomfort, confusion, and overall displeasure I was experiencing watching Fast 10. So let's do that now. It smells like Tabasco sauce, like hot. I'm scared now. I just got scared. Like, I wasn't scared at all thinking about this, but here we go. Oh, it's gross. Okay, let's talk about Fast X.
If you never would have gotten behind that wheel, I'd never be the man I am today.
Wow, my tongue is on fire. Fast X is immediately off-putting. It's one of those movies that, from like the first few frames, it hurts to talk. I was in displeasure because this is kind of a sequel to Fast 5. My mouth is on. I gotta get that milk. Oh. Okay. Ugh. So right off the bat, this movie's bad. Like, immediately. It's kind of a sequel to Fast 5 in that Jason Mamoa is the villain of this movie, but apparently he was also in Fast 5, even though we never saw him. He was never mentioned, and this is a total retcon of 5 to try and give him some motivation to want to kill Dom in this one, because he's the son of the villain in Fast 5. And we get these really gratuitous sequences of Fast 5 that de-age the characters to show that they were in the movie. It's just painful and obvious and terrible. The de-aging looks bad. The visual effects to stitch together the scenes look bad. And it's even more telling of what kind of movie Fast X is when compared to Fast 5, because you watch Fast 5 scenes, and they're smashing real cars in real locations, just doing all these cool stunts, and then it cuts to this movie, and it's just like green screen visual effects cars getting demolished. It's a complete polar inverse. Oh, dude, it's hurting my stomach. I don't know if I can do... Okay. I'm scared again. Okay. It's a very somber movie in some ways. Now, does that work ever? No. It's not dramatic in the least, and it's not somber in the least, because you know that nobody can die in this f***ing franchise. Everybody comes back to life, including, at the end of the movie, Gal Gadot. Everybody that dies comes back. Han, he died. They retconned his death twice. Michelle Rodriguez, she died. She had amnesia. She's back. Everybody that dies is coming back, which means John Cena ain't dead. They tried to kill John Cena in one of the funniest scenes of this movie, which they tried to make dramatic. He has this cannon car, and he's driving, and he's like, Dom, it's time for me to get out of your shadow. And he flips his cannons down and blasts his car upside down and smashes into like 5 other cars, which all explode immediately. And I will never forget the shot of when he's upside down, a close-up of him going... Not only is it overly dramatic and not work, and overly somber and it not work, but the premise is also paper thin. The premise is that Jason Mamoa, who I just realized we stopped talking about, is trying to kill Dom because he was almost killed by Dom in the 5th movie. All right, that's it. That's the premise.
If you never would have gotten behind that wheel, I'd never be the man I am today.
Dom seems to be the only active participant in the story. He's the only character that's actually being persecuted by Jason Mamoa after the scene when they're rolling a bomb down the Vatican Hills. Everybody else is split up into other B, C... Wow! And D stories, and they barely have anything to do. Dom is chasing after Jason Mamoa. He goes to Brazil. They have a weird drag race. That's actually the best scene in the movie when Jason Mamoa tries to make him choose who he's going to save. That scene is great. It's the only one that feels like it has consequence and stakes. If that guy that gets killed, who's from Fast 5, comes back, I'll be pissed. It's the only scene with any consequence, and if he gets unkilled, Jason Momoa is trying to kill his kid. He's the only active participant in this premise. The rest of the story is John Cena trying to bring the kid to a rendezvous point for Vin Diesel, even though at no point did Vin Diesel say to do this in the story. Jason Momoa literally just shows up John Cena literally just shows up and goes, "Your dad sent me. We're going to go to a rendezvous point."
What's up?
Uncle Jacob?
Your dad sent me.
Brie Larson is there. She leaves. She tries to free Michelle Rodriguez from jail. She gets shot and she vanishes. Michelle Rodriguez and Charlize Theron are in a prison in Antarctica for some reason. And then they bust out and then it's in Antarctica. So the stinger is Gal Gadot shows up with a nuclear submarine to save them. Somehow she busts through ice. I don't understand how that works. But they just vanish for great parts of the movie. The Tage, Ludacris, and Roman. Tage and Ludacris, I think, are the same person. But they are all just around. They go to Pete Davidson's place. And he sells them out. And then they leave. And then they go find Jason Statham, who then leaves. It's just a bunch of, things and cameos that have nothing to do with anything. They're just there. The editing does not help this either. The editing is very, very jerky and jarring through the entirety of the film. The editing feels like it's trying to patch a movie together, which is why, while I was watching it, I thought Justin Lin did more of the movie, because I was like, there's no chance that a director did 80% of this movie. It feels like half of the scenes, the actors had no direction. And according to some trivia, this fight scene that happens between Charlize Theron and Michelle Williams that had zero consequence to anything, and it was just a fight scene for no reason, was shot without a director. You go from Dom being ran around by Jason Momoa, hard cut to Michelle Williams and Charlize Theron in Antarctica, talking for 3 seconds. Then you hard cut to Roman, Tage, and then you hard cut to the other 3 people dicking around somewhere, either in Brazil or on a plane or wherever they are. And then you hard cut from that to John Cena on a green screen with a child in a car, and they're doing a little dance. And then you cut back to Dom. It's just it's crazy. It makes no sense. Characters will just show up and vanish, and the editing is so jerky in those scenes too. It's like, we have to get through this as quick as possible. We have to get through this as quick as possible.
You are not to be trusted.
Hey, you ain't on my Christmas list either.
But I guess we should round back to Jason Momoa, who we failed to talk about. He's just a bad villain. He's chewing the scenery as well. He's just not good in the role. Absolutely terrible. I see what he's trying to do, like an unhinged, nihilistic guy. But man, tone it down, brother. It's crazy. It's crazy what he's getting away with on this movie.
Tommy,
I knew you would come for me. So how about we all just start shooting each other? Time to end this.
So yeah, this is a bad movie. This is a very, very, very bad movie. There are some sporadic fun to be had with it. That Jason Statham shows up to vanish after 2 minutes of screen time. His stuff is fun. I enjoy that character. He brings some charisma to the movie that was much needed, because the introduction of the new characters add less charisma to the movie, if that's possible. Brie Larson is like a brick wall. She's terrible in this. This new Mr. Nobody character, Ames, I think is his name, is also a brick wall of no charisma. He's like a black hole. He has barely any emotions. He looks like they pulled him straight out of a gym to act. He's just terrible. Just terrible. Scott Eastwood, who's granted in other movies shows up for a scene and is terrible. Almost everyone in this has no expression, emotion, or charisma. John Cena is really it. John Cena and Jason Momoa. And Jason Momoa pushed it so far, it doesn't work. John Cena is fun, though. What else is there to talk about. It's a mess. It's a hodgepodge of ideas and subplots that feel like that nothing is accomplished. It feels like everything is just set up for the next one. And there's going to be 2 more, apparently. I feel like I was having hot sauce poured into my mouth constantly during this movie by unseen people that I wanted to kill, and it just kept happening. It was a nightmare. I'd give this a 2 or a 3. I really disliked it. It's one of the worst of the franchise, if not the worst of this franchise, because it doesn't feel like a movie. It's just a collection of noises and visuals. There's barely any story. There's barely anything to follow. There's no thrust to anything. There's no motivation. There's barely a structure. It's just terrible. It sucks. I will not be drinking any more of this. I thought about it for the meme at the end, but I can't do it. It's disgusting.